So, have you ever sent a seemingly innocuous message at work? Maybe something like, let's review the strategy on this tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. And within seconds, you see those little typing bubbles appear.
Right. And suddenly you're managing a full-blown crisis. You chose your words carefully. You thought you were sending a simple scheduling request.
But the reply comes back defensive or panicked or maybe even a little hostile.
Exactly. You sit there looking at your screen, just wondering how a blueprint for a basic meeting was somehow interpreted as a declaration of war.
It happens every day. And, well, our immediate instinct is to interrogate the words themselves, right? We assume there was a mechanical failure in the transmission.
Yeah, we tell ourselves we must not have been clear enough. Or, we just blame the other person for not reading the text carefully.
Right, because we operate under this assumption that language is basically a mathematical equation. Like a specific input guarantees an identical output.
We totally expect communication to be this flawless transfer of data. But today, we're spending our time with a stack of source material that completely dismantles that expectation.
It really does.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive into some excerpts from the Reflective Humanism Project, specifically their document number 104 and the Core Fields version 1.4 text.
Which are fascinating reads.
They really are. And their main premise is that the accurate transmission of words is actually not the same thing as translation. So the mission of our time today isn't to uncover some, secret hack for being perfectly understood all the time.
No, because being perfectly understood in that sort of mathematical sense is structurally impossible.
Wait, impossible.
Yeah, structurally impossible. Our focus today is on exploring how meaning actually travels. How does a concept move between people, between rigid institutions, across generational divides?
And increasingly between humans and artificial intelligence, right?
Exactly. We're looking at how meaning can be carried without erasing the complex lived differences between our individual worlds.
I love that. So to really get into the mechanics of this, I think we have to look at the default way we handle language. I know I naturally treat words like shipping containers.
It's a shipping container model, yes.
Yeah, like I have a thought, I pack that meaning into a carefully selected word container, I load it onto the ship of a text message or an email, and it travels across the internet to the receiver.
And you expect them to open the doors, unpack the container, and get the exact same thought you packed.
Right, and if they unpack a panic attack instead of a meeting request, I just assume I chose the wrong size container. I used the wrong words.
Well, that industrial model of human connection is actually the first thing the reflective humanism text targets. They introduce a structural diagram that disrupts that shipping container theory completely.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the diagram?
The formula they use is same word does not equal same experience, does not equal same meaning. Meaning is simply not a sealed package.
But okay, if the shipping container model is fundamentally broken, why do we even bother editing our emails? Or agonizing over precise language?
That's a fair question.
If the meaning is never going to arrive intact, it feels like we should just throw words at a wall and hope for the best.
Well, precision is still highly valuable, right? But its value completely changes when you understand the true mechanism of communication.
Okay, so what is the true mechanism if it's not a container?
The conventional flawed structure assumes the speaker's meaning translates directly into words, which then translate directly into the receiver's understanding. But the reality is much more dynamic.
How so?
A speaker's unique personal history dictates their choice of words. Those words are transmitted, and they make contact with the receiver. Then, those words must filter through the receiver's own history.
Like their cultural background.
Exactly. Their background, their past traumas, their current bodily state, their expectations. The meaning is formed after that filtration process.
Oh, wow. So it's not a transfer at all. It's a regeneration.
Regeneration, that's a perfect word for it.
The word is acting more like a chemical catalyst. I'm not handing someone a finished cake. I'm dropping a catalyst into whatever chemical bath they already have going on in their own mind.
And a brand new reaction occurs. A new meaning emerges from that collision. The word makes contact with an entirely different world.
That is wild to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if meaning is regenerated on the receiving side rather than just unpacked, a single everyday word must contain massive variations from person to person.
Well, massive variations. The text points to words with heavy, invisible gradients, like the word responsibility.
Responsibility, yeah, that's a loaded one.
It's a brilliant test case because we use it constantly, right? In family dynamics, corporate environments, and we just assume it holds a universal weight.
Yeah, I mean, think about a team at work. For one person, responsibility is synonymous with agency. It feels like freedom.
Right.
If you give them a new responsibility, you're giving them the power to decide, to shape outcomes, to steer the ship. They receive that word, and they feel totally energized.
But someone sitting right next to them, hearing the exact same word from the exact same manager, might have a totally different history.
Like what?
Like a history where responsibility meant carrying the blame for failures without ever actually having the authority to prevent them.
Oh, man. Yeah. To them, the word feels like a crushing, inescapable burden.
Exactly. And then you add a third layer to it, which is the institution itself.
The company's definition.
Right. For a corporation or a legal framework, the word responsibility carries zero emotional weight. It operates purely as a mechanical term to stabilize organizational roles. It's just a marker for accountability in a system.
So you have three fundamentally different realities colliding over a 12-letter word.
Yes.
My instinct to solve this friction is to just lean on standardization.
How do you mean?
Well, if we're starting a project, why not just pull up the dictionary, agree on the technical definition of responsibility,
Yeah.
and move forward? I mean, we standardize measurements in construction so buildings don't collapse. Why not standardize our definitions?
I get that. And dictionaries do provide a vital function. They create a shared starting point for contact. They get us into the same room, essentially.
Right.
But they cannot overwrite personal histories. A technical definition of responsibility or family or success, it doesn't eradicate the lived bodily experience you have when you hear those words.
So the friction is still there.
Always. The reflective humanism text stresses that these discrepancies are not communication errors. They are the inevitable, natural interference that occurs when two different lives touch.
Natural interference. Okay, so if that interference is just a feature of human contact and our personal histories can't be aligned by a dictionary, then any attempt to force a perfect alignment means we have to strip away the personal history entirely.
Yes, you have to cut away the nuance to achieve clarity.
Which brings us to what the text calls translation loss. And this happens even between two people speaking the exact same language.
Exactly. Translation inherently demands loss. The text actually organizes this loss into three distinct layers, starting with the most visible and moving to the deeply psychological.
Okay, let's walk through those. What's the first one?
The first layer is information loss, which occurs anytime we compress data through summary or paraphrase.
Oh, that's the easiest one to spot. Like if I sit in a chaotic hour-long brainstorm and then type up a 3-paragraph summary for the team, I'm leaving out dozens of ideas, tangents, and minor details, right?
Right. You are dropping facts to create a readable document.
But the text argues the loss goes much deeper than just skipped facts. Because what happens to the actual environment of that meeting?
Well, that brings us to the second layer, which is context loss.
Context loss.
Even if you produced a flawless word-for-word transcript of that 1-hour brainstorm, time inevitably strips away the original situation.
Because a transcript doesn't capture the power dynamics in the room.
Exactly. It doesn't capture the unspoken tension because someone was worried about layoffs or the specific timing of a comment or the hidden reasons why a person felt compelled to speak up in that exact moment.
The gravity that held those words together just dissipates, leaving just the text.
Yes. The environment evaporates. And that leads to the deepest layer, which is honestly the most challenging to grasp.
This is phase loss, right?
Yes, phase loss. We lose facts, we lose the environment, but the text suggests we also lose the state of the thought itself.
The state. What does that mean?
Phase loss addresses the physical and psychological state of meaning. Think about when a thought is initially formed and spoken. It often emerges with hesitation, right?
Yeah, lots of ums and ahs.
It carries uncertainty, vulnerability, or a sense of being unresolved. But the moment we record it, edit it, and commit it to a document, that unsteadiness vanishes.
It undergoes a state change. It's like freezing water. It's the same fundamental material, but it behaves completely differently.
That's a great analogy.
I can just picture someone pacing at a whiteboard, struggling to articulate a really difficult, messy concept. They're using filler words, they're pausing, they're visibly unsure.
Right, they're in the process of meaning making.
But by the time that meeting is over, someone has typed that thought into a polished bullet point. And on the page, That messy, searching thought suddenly looks like a rigid, hyper-confident mandate that was fully formed from the start.
The fluid moving nature of the phase is entirely gone.
But let me interrupt here because,
Yeah,
I can't read an emergency manual written in hesitation.
fair point.
If there's a fire in the building, I need a rigid, hyper-confident bullet point telling me where the stairs are. Clarity has immense utility.
Oh, absolutely. And the authors of the source text wouldn't disagree with you there. Clarity is essential for coordinated action.
So what's the problem?
The danger they highlight is not the pursuit of clarity itself, but the invisibility of what clarity removes.
Ah,
The hazard arises when we look at that polished meeting note or that standardized policy, and we forget that the meaning was ever fluid. We mistake the smoothed-over summary for the total reality of the situation.
I see. We start believing the map is the actual territory. And when we encounter the messy reality of the territory, we get frustrated that it doesn't look like our neat little map.
Precisely. This friction between our deep need for coordinated clarity and the unavoidable messiness of human experience forces society to use different tools for different scenarios.
The source material categorizes our approach into two distinct forms of translation, doesn't it?
Yes. And neither is inherently malicious, they just serve different functions.
Okay, the first function they identify is removing difference, which is exactly what we were just talking about with emergency protocols or legal codes, right?
Right. We take highly varied, complex meanings and compress them into a standardized language.
Like if a hurricane is coming, we don't have the luxury of exploring everyone's unique historical relationship with the word evacuate. We need immediate, synchronized action, so we forcibly remove the individual differences to ensure the system works.
But compressing meaning to coordinate action carries a heavy cost.
What's the cost?
Well, by removing difference, you erase local context. You erase minority experiences that don't fit the standard definition. You basically pave over unspoken discomforts just to maintain the efficiency of the system.
Wow. Okay, so we definitely need a counterbalance to that erasure,
Yeah.
which brings us to the second form of translation, leaving difference.
Yes. Leaving difference.
Rather than trying to force everything into a neat box, this approach transforms meaning into a contactable form without promising total resolution.
It's communication that intentionally highlights what remains untranslated.
Right. It leaves a marker saying, our histories are clashing here, we don't fully agree, but we're leaving the space open to reconnect.
It's an acknowledgement that the gap between two people cannot always be closed with a better vocabulary word.
I see this play out constantly with generational divides. Like, I hear older relatives talk about the past and say things like, well, working at the same company for 40 years was just normal back then.
Oh, normal is such a fascinating word in that context.
Because when they use the word normal, they're acting like a compression algorithm. They're taking massive environmental conditions, the post-war economic boom, the viability of a single-income household, the lack of smartphones keeping you tethered to work at midnight,
Right.
and they're compressing all of that history into the word normal.
And what's the typical response from a younger generation?
We attack the word. We argue over the definition of normal. We try to force agreement on the terminology.
Exactly. But applying the principle of leaving difference changes the goal of the conversation entirely. Translating between generations shouldn't be about forcing someone to abandon their definition.
So what should it be about?
It should be about making the invisible environment that formed their opinion visible to you, and vice versa.
So I don't have to agree that their experience was universal.
No, you don't. You just have to create a surface where those two different histories can make contact without one trying to overwrite the other.
That is so hard to do. Humans already struggle to walk that tightrope. We bounce between wanting efficient clarity and craving nuanced understanding.
We do.
But now we've introduced a technology that is designed to perform that compression, to remove difference, at a speed and scale we've literally never seen before. Artificial intelligence.
Yes. The Reflective Humanism project focuses heavily on AI because it is, at its core, an industrial-scale translation engine.
It really is.
Mhm.
An AI model can ingest a sprawling, contradictory, emotionally volatile transcript of a town hall meeting.
And instantly spit out a pristine, logically ordered list of action items.
It's wild. But AI models are fundamentally probability engines, right? They predict the next most mathematically likely word based on vast data sets.
Yes.
So by definition, they are averaging out human language. They're taking the statistical outliers, our weird hesitations, our unique phrasing, the messy difference we just talked about, and smoothing them out to find the mathematical center.
And that smoothing process accelerates context loss and phase loss to an unprecedented degree.
Unprecedented.
AI excels at cleaning up contradictions. It ruthlessly edits out the unsteadiness of human thought, and when it encounters a gap in the logic, its design compels it to fill that blank with plausible, highly probable connections.
It just invents a bridge.
Exactly. And the existential concern here isn't just that the AI might hallucinate a fake fact. The deeper concern is that it synthesizes a single, incredibly authoritative, correct-looking meaning.
Wow.
In doing so, it effectively paves over the pathways back to the original, messy, valid interpretations that existed before the compression.
It is the ultimate removing difference machine.
It really is.
So does the source text view AI as a net negative? Like, do they want us to stop using language models for summaries?
No, not at all. They actually advocate for a profound redefinition of the technology's role.
Okay, what's the ideal application in the reflective humanism framework then?
They argue that AI should not function as a perfect, neutral conveyor belt delivering absolute truth. Instead, it should function as an interference surface or an atmospheric health scan.
An interference surface. Okay, I picture it like a GPS navigation system. Right now, we treat AI like a GPS that just gives us a single blue line to our destination, and we blindly follow it.
Right.
We marvel at how efficient the route is. But an AI operating as an interference surface wouldn't just give you the fastest route. It would show you the blue line, but it would also show you the topographical map.
Yes.
It would point out the heavy traffic it routed you away from. It would highlight the scenic roads it decided to skip to save time, and it would explicitly tell you why it made those choices.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. A healthy AI system leaves the pathways of inquiry open. It doesn't snap a complex issue to a fixed, absolute conclusion. It maintains the gradient.
It shows its work, basically.
It delivers the smooth summary, but attaches a structural note saying, to create this clarity, I removed this inherent contradiction, and I bypassed this unresolved hesitation. It accomplishes a task while actively leaving the difference intact.
That changes everything. And if we accept that machines shouldn't seamlessly pave over our communication gaps, it really forces a reckoning with how we handle our own human-to-human miscommunications.
Oh, so?
Well, we usually treat misunderstanding as a failure condition, like a bug in our mental software that needs to be patched. We tell ourselves, if I just read another book on communication, or if I just craft my Slack messages more carefully, I will never be misunderstood again.
Which brings us back to the core structural reality we started with. It is impossible.
Impossible.
As long as you possess a different history, a different body, and a different set of memories than the person you're speaking to, misunderstandings are guaranteed.
So we should just give up.
No, the objective is not to eradicate misunderstanding. The objective is to utilize misunderstanding as an observation point. It is the entry point for retranslation.
A misunderstanding isn't the moment the conversation breaks. It's the moment you finally realize you're talking to someone who actually lives in a different world than you do.
Exactly. And the Cortfield's text introduces a specific term for the sensation of that realization, transparent pain.
Transparent pain. That sounds like a highly theoretical concept, but what is the actual mechanism happening in our minds when we feel it?
It's the cognitive friction that occurs when the chaotic, nonlinear reality of another human being collides with your internal, highly linear attempts to process them.
Give me an example.
Well, when you build a neat, logical mental model of how a coworker or a partner should behave, and then they do something that completely shatters that model, you experience friction. The realization that your internal map failed to capture their external reality actually hurts.
It's the growing pains of your mind's operating system hitting its processing limit. It hurts because your brain wants the world to be simple and the world is stubbornly refusing to comply.
That's beautifully put, and that pain is an invaluable signal. It isn't a sign that the relationship is doomed or that communication has permanently failed.
Right.
The transparent pain indicates that your internal operating system requires a structural update. It's an invitation to ask a better question, to adjust your gradient, and to keep the dialogue going.
It's the definitive proof that you're actually making contact with a reality outside of your own head.
Exactly.
Man, we've dissected a lot of the hidden machinery behind how we speak to each other today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started by dismantling the idea that words are just shipping containers carrying identical meanings.
Oh,
We walked through how our constant demand for crisp, efficient clarity strips away context, history, and the very phase of our thoughts. We
yes.
looked at the danger of letting AI automatically smooth out our human edges, and we arrived at the realization that misunderstanding isn't a failure, but a necessary friction for updating our worldview.
Moving away from the desire to control meaning and instead learning to participate in its constant regeneration is a massive shift.
It really is.
And, the core thesis leaves us with an open consideration regarding how we view empathy itself.
Oh, really? What is it?
Typically, we assume that to truly understand someone, we must perfectly translate their lived experience into our own vocabulary. We try to make their world make sense within our world.
Right. We try to relate it back to ourselves.
But perhaps forcing that translation merely erases the unique qualities of your experience. What if the highest form of understanding is simply constructing a space where you can touch their difference, acknowledge it, and allow it to remain completely unresolved?
Wow. True understanding might just mean letting the people around you remain wonderfully, complexly different from you without trying to edit them into a summary you can easily digest.
Something to think about.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As you navigate your conversations today, take a moment to notice the invisible histories hidden behind the words you use and the words you receive. Until next time.